Hey everybody, Matt here for Imagine Then Make. Thanks for stopping by and welcome to part 5 of my Learn Blender video series. Now if you missed any previous episodes, just check the video description for a link to the playlist that holds all of the episodes for this series. Now specifically for this video, what we're going to do is take this checkered cube and just create a real simple animation. Okay, as you can see, I've already launched Blender and I've created this checkered cube. Check out the time-lapse video that shows you how I made it. To make this checkered cube, all I really did was the same thing that I showed in part 4 of the video series. I just started with a default cube, made a few loop cuts, so I wound up with 16 small faces on each of the 6 large faces of the cube. Then I went ahead and assigned my colors to the different material slots. I wound up with red, white, purple, and yellow. And then I, just like in the previous video, I just selected each face and assigned a color to it. That's really basically it. Okay, so we have our cube here. So let's make a real simple animation and move it. So I'm gonna, first things first, I'm going to make my timeline a little bigger. We're still in the layout workspace, so nothing's changed there. I am looking at in the properties editor, I'm looking at the output properties. And it shows that the frame rate for my animation will be 24 frames per second. Okay, so let's kind of zoom out a little bit. We're going to click on this camera icon, and you can see that my cube is right inside the frame. Now I can do all the same sort of panning and zooming that I want to do here. And that's because I have this checkbox under the View tab. I have this checkbox checked. If I uncheck and try and zoom, now I'm changing the size of the frame, the field of viewfinder, changing the size of the viewfinder. I think that's the word I want to use. So when I click this checkbox, now the viewfinder stays the same size and I'm able to manipulate the image of the cube. So what I want to do, try and make the cube as large as reasonable, and I want to move it from this x-axis, which is a major grid line, to this major grid line right here. Okay, so my cube is highlighted. I'm on frame number 1 of the timeline. With the mouse pointer up here, I'm going to press the I key on the keyboard. Now, this is Insert Keyframe menu. So a keyframe is like a snapshot of where the cube is on this particular frame, which marks a spot in time. And I already said that we're going to be rendering our animation at 24 frames per second. So that means 24 different images per second will be shown. When they're shown at that speed, it gives the illusion of motion. Okay, so with the mouse pointer up here, this is my starting point for my cube. I press I, Insert Keyframe menu. I'm already thinking that I want to keep track of the location and the rotation of the cube. So I'm going to left mouse click here, and that puts a little dot here indicating that I think it's actually a diamond, and it actually indicates that this is the location of a keyframe. Okay, I'm going to switch to solid view because I've had trouble with Blender crashing with having the material preview button clicked. So I'm going to try and I could even try wireframe. Let me try wireframe with X-ray off. That should be a little lighter computation-wise for the computer. Okay, so now I want to advance to frame, well, let's see, if I wanted to take 1 second to go from here to here, I would go to frame 24. But let's make it a little bit longer. Let's make it 48. So 48. And with my cube highlighted, I want to use the same move tools that we've used before. So I just want to drag it up to here. So the cube is the middle of the cube. The origin of the cube is roughly at that grid line. It probably got a little bit further to go. That looks pretty close. Okay. So I'm at frame number 48 and I want to insert another keyframe right here. So I'm going to press the I key and I'll select rotation, location and rotation once again, even though all we've done so far is change the location of the cube. So that should take, the 48 frames should take 2 seconds to run. Now we want to pause for, let's say, 1 second. So 48 plus 24, what is that? 48, 58, 68, and 4 is 72. So if I move to frame 72 with my mouse pointer right here, press the I key, location, and rotation. Okay, so it basically knows with this bar that the cube hasn't moved. So the position that the cube was in here at frame 48 stays the same at frame 72. Okay, so now I want to add another 48 frames to this. So 72 plus 48. After a while, my brain needs a calculator. Okay, so I'm on frame 72 now, and I want to add 48 frames to that. So that's frame 120, which is right here. So at frame 120, I want to move the cube back to this starting location. So let's click on the move tool. We'll move the origin right to about there. And we'll insert, again with the mouse pointer in this area. We'll press I and insert another location and rotation keyframe. And then we'll wait another 24 frames. So 120 plus 24 is 144. And now I'll insert another keyframe right here. And that will represent the end of my animation. So we want to make our animation end at frame number 144. 144. Okay. All right, so now let's see if this works. Let's press play. Okay, that works pretty well. Do you see the little stutter back here? So this initial position is a little different than the final position right here. So let's see if we can fix that. I'm going to move to this location right here. I'm going to use the move tool and I'm going to try and adjust the position, the initial position, and I want to press I, location, and rotation. Now let's press play and see what happens. All right, I didn't see any stutter that time. Progress has been made. Okay, so we're still in wireframe mode. Let's save our work in case we crash. So we're saved, and it actually says down here, saved, and there's no asterisk up here. So now let's see what happens if we turn on, well, let's stay in wireframe and let's add a rotation. So we're going to jump to this frame right here, frame 48, and we're going to rotate the cube around let's go around the x-axis to make like the cube is rolling. And so we'll try and roll it 360 degrees. So I'm going to do rotate x 360, enter. Okay, and then I'm going to cancel the rotation move, and while I'm at frame 48, I'm going to press the I key, location, and rotation. And then if I jump to frame 72 and I press I again, location and rotation, and let's go back and see what happens. So I just hit jump to endpoint, which is the very beginning. Now let's push play. Interesting. Okay, so first off, it rotates in the wrong direction. So we're going to try and fix that. But I hope you're getting the idea that it's pretty simple to just move your shape, your cube, let's say, using the tools that we've already talked about over here, and assign keyframes, and then play your animation right here. We haven't even rendered it yet. This is the fun part, though, to try and get the motion correct. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to jump to frame 1. And let's see. So this is correct. This position is correct. But at frame 48, I want the rotation to go in the opposite direction. So that would be minus 360. So I'm going to type RX minus 360 and press enter. And then if I jump right to frame 72 and I press I, and this time I just want to keep track of the location. I don't want to rotate it. So let's see if that helps. Nope, it's still spinning the wrong direction, and it's still spinning once it gets to its destination. So there's still work to be done here. Let's see if we can fix this. Let's delete this keyframe. So I just box select it and press delete. In fact, let's delete all of these keyframes. Well, let's delete this one. Okay, so now at frame 48, let's move the cube up to here. And I want to rotate it Let's try using the keyboard shortcuts. R, X, minus 360. Let me try that again. R, X, 3, 6. That's spinning the wrong direction. Minus 360. Enter. Okay. I to insert a keyframe, and we're going to keep track of location and rotation. Okay. So now let's back up and hit play. Look at that. Look at that. It's kind of fun. All right, so let's get rid of this keyframe, and let's shorten the animation to 120. Let's play. All right, can you tell I'm having fun? I'm enjoying this. I just think it's way cool. All right, so let's save our work. And let's go for the gusto here. Let's switch to solid, and we're going to hit play. No crashes. Now I'll call your attention to this spot on the screen right here, and it's in red. So it's actually displaying the number of frames per second that we're able to achieve with my computer. And it's pretty low. It's like between 13 and 14 frames per second, which is nowhere near the desired 24. So that may be why I crash from time to time. I'm just overloading the computer. I have to look into that, see what I can do to get that frame rate up. All right, here we go. Let's see. Let's hope we don't crash. We're going to click on material preview mode, hit play. Look at that. It works. Not sure for how long. All right. So that's what I was going for. Something pretty simple. Let me switch back. Well, let's stay in material preview mode. And we're going to hit save. And now when we look at our render settings, okay, so when we render this, I think what it's going to do is it's going to render a whole bunch of separate frames, pictures. It should render 24 of them for each second. And it's going to stick those images in this folder. So let's click on that and move up. Let's see, navigate to my external hard drive. Navigate to the folder that has all the assets for this video, which is where? It's a different look than what I'm used to. Here we go. Okay, and let's make a new folder, and we'll say rendered output. And then we'll say accept. I'm going to choose this, say accept, accept, and now my folder name has been changed. We can make it looks like it's a big long folder name. Okay, so I think we're ready to actually render this animation. So there's a render menu up here, and I'm going to click on render animation. So what it's doing is it's moving the cube one frame at a time, creating an image and sticking it in that output folder that I just created. Then what I can do is take all those images and load them into my video editor. I'm not using the video editor in Blender yet. That is something I want to explore at some point. But I'll take all these images and move them into the video editor I'm using to edit this video, my videos that go up on YouTube, and then we'll see what that looks like. So once the rendering is done, I'll be right back. Okay, all the images were rendered, and they all got placed into the folder that I set up down here. And there's a couple of interesting things. So you can look at all the images. They're all named sequentially. They're all PNG images. And you can see that there's 120 images in this folder, which accounts for the 120 frames in the animation. So now the idea is to move all these images into my video editor, and then we'll see what they look like. All right, so let me do that. Okay, so I put all my rendered images into my video editor and then produced an MP4 file. Here's what it looks like. Okay, so I know this animation is not all that spectacular, but consider where we started from. We've come a really long way. And of course, I've said, I don't know how many times, these are learn by doing videos, so I encourage you to open up your own copy of Blender and try and make an animation similar to this one. So it occurs to me that you might not have a video editor. Even though there's one built into Blender, you might not want to dive right into figuring out how to use that right away. But if you do, more power to you. It's certainly one of the things on my list for an upcoming video, hopefully fairly soon. But for years and years, I've been using a video editor that I actually paid for. That's how I got started on YouTube. So that's what I'm comfortable using. However, if you don't have a video editor on your computer, but you are running Windows 10 like I am, there is a free video editor available and built right into Windows. Just search for the Photos app and then click on the Create New Video Project. I think that's the name of the button. and just kind of follow the instructions. It's very straightforward. Just load in all the rendered images that you got out of Blender and set the duration for each image to be displayed for a fairly short period of time. I used 1/10 of a second, 0.1 seconds per image, and this is what the animation looks like when I got done. Well, that's a wrap on this video episode of my Learn Blender video series. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned a lot. If you've watched the whole video series starting from part 1 all the way through part 5, which is this part, then again, thank you very much for your time and attention. I hope you've had a chance to pause my videos, open up your copy of Blender, and try and recreate what you saw me do. I've said it countless times now. It's really the best way to learn this stuff. Now, going forward, I have all kinds of ideas and things that I want to do with Blender. So I invite you to stay tuned and watch out for upcoming episodes. You can always subscribe to my channel, hit the little bell icon if you want, or if you don't, that's okay. I don't really post all that often, but if you do want to be notified, you can hit the bell icon on YouTube and it'll let you know when I've posted a new video. When I think back on the 5 parts of this video tutorial, we really have come a long way, starting with downloading, explaining why I chose the version of Blender that I did, installing, then we're looking at user preferences, user interface, working with the default cube, moving, rotating, scaling, coloring, joining various size rectangles or boxes together. And now we've worked all the way up to doing a real simple animation. So that's a lot of ground. If you actually learn this information, kind of absorb it, take it in, practice, 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 I feel pretty confident that you should be able to make a real simple animation like you saw me do in this part on your own. The one sticking part might be the video editor, but again, if you're on Windows 10, you can try their free video editor. There's other free video editors available for Windows and also the other major operating systems. So you could check those out if you wanted to, or God forbid, right? You check out the video editor that's built into Blender and try and figure out how to make that work. It's one of the things on my list.